Hello, Safe Harbor Yogis. This is Jen Rhodes. So today we're going to focus on the topic of stress relief and worrying. So that's kind of how we're going to go through class, and I'll give us some tools to be able to use along the way, either on your mat or off of it. So just pay attention throughout it. Again, feel whatever you need to feel. Discuss it afterwards if you'd like, and please feel free to ask any questions to Sarah to relay to me if you need. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna actually hoist you guys up a little bit further here though first. Get her straightened out here. All right, guys. So if you're in a chair, feel free to follow my prompts by doing something very similar with the chair. I'll try to teach to that also. But if you're on your mat, it will be a little bit more simple for the postures. So let's start by laying on our backs, or go ahead and sit back in your chair and fully relax your back of your body into it. If you're on the ground, try to get the entire back of your body to touch the ground. So really relax every muscle, even as far into like your forehead, and if you're closing your eyes too tightly or making fists, just release any tension that may exist. So go ahead and let yourself find your spot in your chair or on your mat. If you're laying down on your mat, you can have your legs long like I do right now, or you can go ahead and bring yourself with feet on the mat and knees bent. You have the option as well of bringing your feet, the soles of your feet together, and finding a butterfly type of pose with your legs. You have all those options available, so feel free to take them. Your hands or your arms can be just by your side. If your palms are facing up toward the ceiling, the saying is that that means that you're ready to receive information. And if you go ahead and put your palms down, that means that you're trying to ground yourself, which just means that if you're up in the air type of feeling, that you feel like you're floating and not really connecting with the world, you can bring your hands to face down. Also, you may have one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart to connect your breath and your movement. So finding that space, closing the eyes here, simply relaxing. And our quote for today, to kind of bring everything together for class, is by Emma Bombeck. She had said, "Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but never gets you anywhere." So when we do find worry in our lives, we do have a tendency of letting that take over. It's just human nature. So if you're one of those worriers, I know I am one of them, definitely. But if you are a worrier, just kind of keeping that in the back of your mind, that it's not something that's productive. You're literally taking away from the present moment, and really focusing in on something that you really can't control in most cases. So this is about surrendering and not letting that worry take over the mind, and still allowing yourself to be present in each moment instead of worrying about the past or worrying about the future. So for these next 30 some moments together here, let's go ahead and focus on how to stay in the moment instead of focusing outward. So by doing that, you can choose a word to be able to kind of use. So you can use the word strength. You can just literally think of the word peace. Anything of that nature that really resonates with you. Sometimes a word will just pop into your mind. So go ahead and go with it. And maybe even using a mantra like, "I will not worry," and keeping it simple. Now, from where we're at on our mats, let's just start to pay attention to our breath. So we're not going to control the breath or count the breath or do anything just yet. We're just paying attention simply to the rise and fall of our chest or belly, and noticing what that breath feels like in our nose as we are inhaling, and then as well as we're exhaling, just what it feels like. Just simple characteristics of that breath. Maybe if the air feels cold as you're breathing it in, maybe there's a certain scent that you're finding, whatever is present at this moment, just paying attention to that. And if you are in your mat or on your chair and still just staying still and kind of coming into that meditative state, go ahead and keep your eyes closed, but make some small movements. Just wiggle your fingers and toes. And then broaden those movements a little bit more, maybe bending at the elbow and rolling your wrists in circles, maybe kind of pointing and flexing your feet. Just making some small movements there and just making them bigger as you go. So at any point, if you just want to even stretch your arms up overhead or anything that you feel you need to do at this moment, feel free to take that and run with it. So once we started moving, let's stay either on our backs on the mat or in our chairs. On your next inhale, we're going to go ahead and bring our left knee into the chest. So bringing that knee in, it doesn't have to come super close to that left shoulder, but we want it to kind of move toward it. So go ahead and find that sweet spot there as far as you can get it without forcing your knee toward that shoulder. We're also going to keep our shoulders on the mat here. So go ahead and make sure that they're not shrugging up toward the sky or up toward our ears, that you're simply letting them relax on the mat or in your chair. And from here, coming into a twist, let's release our hands from wherever they are, if they were around the shin or around the back of the thigh. And then we're going to go ahead and bring our right hand to the outside of our left thigh. Left arm can go long to the left, or you can bend at the elbow and find a cactus arm here. Take a big, deep inhale. On your exhale, go ahead and twist that knee over toward the right. Gaze may come out toward the left if that's okay on your neck. And feel free to either use that right hand as a weight on the top of the leg, or you can go ahead and use your hand as a prop and kind of keep that knee from going too far or that foot from going too far if you feel like you're at your edge. Taking that next inhale, let's bring our knee back into center and exhale it long on the mat to meet the left. Inhale, bring the right knee in. Same thing, either hands behind that right thigh or interlacing fingers around the shin, whichever works best for you. And just gearing that knee toward our right shoulder. And right now, maybe taking the time to find our yoga breathing here. Those of you who practiced with me are probably familiar, but it sounds very much like an ocean. Some people say Darth Vader as far as the breath goes. But in yoga, there's a very specific breathing called Ujjayi breath. So finding that particular breath is very simple. You just want to find a constriction in your throat. So in the back of your throat, you want to be able to feel it almost closing a tiny bit here. And you're almost like you're sighing, but with your mouth closed. And because we're going to go in through the nose and out through our nose with the breath. So you might hear that little wave going. I'll do it here for the recording. I don't know if it'll come all the way through though, but I'll try my best. So as you inhale, you'll start to hear the sound almost of like an ocean wave. And then as you exhale, constricting that throat again and emptying the belly. So almost like a sigh, but keeping our mouth closed. Taking this twist on this side, same thing, same rules. Let's go ahead and bring our left hand to the outside of the right thigh. Right arm can go long to the right, or you can bend at your elbow. Take an inhale here. On your exhale, using that type of breath, let's go ahead and bring that knee over toward the left. Your gaze may come out to the right if that's comfortable on your neck. Breathe here for about 2 or 3 breaths worth of time. On your next inhale, bring that knee back into center. Exhale it long on the mat to meet the opposite. From here, we're going to come into a full body stretch. So go ahead and reach your arms high over top of your head, rather if you're in a chair or on the mat. And then go ahead and point your toes, find a full body stretch, create the longest version of you can. And then relaxing everything once again from that stretch. Let's hug both knees into our chest this time. Go ahead and take some slight rocks from left to right on your lower back. Give yourself a little bit of a massage. Work out any kinks that might be in your lower back, maybe from sleeping or standing, or even just sometimes sitting way too much. Bring yourself back into center here. We're going to go ahead and take our legs up toward the sky for this part. So we're going to go ahead and keep our knees in, and you can feel free to keep that bend in your knees or whatever it may be, but we're going to get the benefit of having an inversion or being upside down without really the stress of or the stress or strength, I should say, too, of being on your hands in a handstand, headstand, forearm stand, any of those things. This is just a stress-free type of way to get into the pose. So we're going to extend our legs up toward the sky. They don't have to be fully straight, so feel free to keep a little bend in them. But we really just want our legs to be above our heart in a way, so it'll recirculate everything. So you'll feel some cold, some tingling possibly in your legs, but just know that's completely normal. Unless if you do have any type of medical condition that's pre-existing and you've been told not to do anything that's inverted or upside down, feel free to, again, step out of that if you are one of those individuals. But from here, we're just going to keep our feet up in the air. You can flex them back toward your face. So it's almost like you're standing on the ceiling, trying to keep your legs active. And you can bring hands behind the thighs if you want a little bit of support as well, or you can just even have your arms by you here. So again, feeling that tingling, that different sensation. Taking a few more breaths here. Slowly bend back into the knees and go ahead and bring the soles of the feet down to the mat here. So bring your feet about hip width distance here, and just really setting up for a very gentle version of what's called bridge pose. So we're not going to go too crazy and go really far into it, but just getting that really basic stretch out of it first. So planting your feet directly on the mat here, your arms will be by your sides, and we're going to bring our shoulders almost underneath of us on the mat for this one. So picturing your shoulder blades on your back here and underneath of you on the mat, we want to bring them so close together that almost if you had a pencil or a pen behind you, you can almost grasp it. So keeping that visualization in mind, we're going to go ahead and walk one shoulder underneath of us and then the other, bringing our shoulder blades closer. So it's a little bit of a squeezing technique here with our back, but again, it's perfectly safe and feel free to do that. Again, like I said, unless you have anything wrong with your shoulders or that you have a pre-existing condition. So planting our hands into the ground here, keeping our palms planted, and keep your gaze completely at the ceiling for this one, or your eyes can be closed. We don't want to move our neck. So let's go ahead and take a next inhale, and we're going to bring our hips off of the ground just by about 2 or 3 inches, nothing crazy. And keeping the legs as they are, we're going to take 5 breaths here, and then we're going to slowly lower down. So take those breaths now, in through the nose and out through the nose. About 2 more breaths here. And then on your next exhale, go ahead and slowly bring your hips back down to the ground. Let's go ahead and bring our feet mat width distance. So just heel toe them all the way out. Let your knees knock into the center. And we're going to windshield wiper our legs from left to right here. So go ahead and just bring your knees toward the left, bring your knees toward the right, and just really waking up our hips here, moving around any of that synovial fluid that kind of sits in our hips and makes them tense. Then bringing our legs back to stillness, bring your feet back in so they are then hip width distance. And we're gonna go ahead and bring ourselves up to a seated position here. So let's bring our knees into our chest once more. Hands go on the back of our thighs here rather. And let's go ahead and kick our feet back toward our nose. Let yourself roll a little bit and bring yourself up to seated. Now from here, let's bring ourselves into either crisscross applesauce type of legs, or you can bring the soles of your feet together here with your knees wide. So from this position here, either coming into it and bringing your hands clasped around your feet, or you can feel free to rest arms with palms up, or you can bring them down, maybe grab onto the knees, whatever you feel like doing. So finding that sweet spot though on our sits bones. So if we rock back and forth a little bit, we can almost move anything that's fleshy from underneath of us and literally just sit right onto our bones, which is much more anatomically correct. So sitting up nice and tall, almost like you feel a puppeteer pulling your strings up toward the sky, because there's a big difference from me being here to being here. Okay, so finding that and keeping our shoulders from going too far forward or too far back. Let's just go ahead and do a shoulder roll just to find it. So wherever you're at, go ahead and bring your shoulders up toward your ears and then just roll them back onto your back. One more time, let's go ahead and bring our shoulders forward and then roll them back. So finding that nice and tall seat. From here, we're gonna come into a forward fold. So you're not gonna have to go super far into this. So if you're in a chair, feel free to just kind of bow forward over your legs. If you're sitting on the mat with me in this similar position, feel free to follow my voice. So let's take a deep inhale where we're at. On your next exhale, let's go ahead and fold forward. We're gonna keep our back straight. So all the way from our hips up through our torso, up all the way to our head. We're keeping a straight line with our back. So use those elbows to your advantage here also, which is pretty great to have that built-in tool. Use your elbows here to kind of keep your legs open. So as you fold forward, your knees don't come up. Again, just finding that flat back and not really rounding the spine or tucking your chin into your chest, just keeping in mind like almost like there's a wall behind your back and you want it to entirely touch it. One more breath here. And on your next inhale, go ahead and bring yourself back up to that seated position. We're gonna set up for a twist here. So let's bring our right leg long in front of us. So go ahead and bring that leg out. And then keeping the left leg in, we're just gonna simply roll onto the sole of our foot here. So we're just keeping that knee bent, and then our right leg long. Flex the toes of your right foot like your toenails are coming toward you, like you're standing on the wall in front of you. Now coming into this twist, we're gonna go ahead and set ourselves up. Bring your left hand behind you, and your palm can be facing down and fingertips looking backward. And then we're just gonna either hug onto our leg with our right arm, or we can kind of come out to the side with it. So bringing that right elbow in front of the thigh and then over to the side. Take an inhale here as we start the twist. On your next exhale, let that kind of bring you further into the pose. We're going to take 3 breaths with each side. Once you're done that 3rd breath, let's go ahead and bring ourselves back into center. Same thing, opposite side. So let's go ahead and bring our left leg long, right foot comes in. So from here, bringing the right hand behind with fingertips facing back, you can either hug onto this leg or bring that left arm to the outside of that knee. Starting that twist, just looking over toward the right On your next exhale, go ahead and bring that gaze back toward that right shoulder if that's comfortable. Otherwise, keep gearing that gaze toward the right, please. One more big, deep breath. And from here, go ahead and bring yourself back into center. Extend that leg long so both legs are long now. And you may not be able to see that in my camera, but again, I'm flexing both feet back toward me, and it's almost like I'm standing on the wall in front of me. Now from here, we're gonna come into that seat again. So go ahead and roll yourself kind of back and forth with your hips, sit right down onto those bones. On your inhale, let's bring our arms high over top of our head, palms touch here. On our exhale, go ahead and fold forward over those legs. So as we do so, you may notice I don't even get very far down here because my hamstrings are a little bit tight at the moment. So as I'm doing this, I'm still keeping that same straight back like we were talking about, and giving ourselves that fold forward. So it may just be a couple of inches that you move, but allowing yourself to do so. 2 more big breaths. Slowly walk yourself back up to center with your hands. And then we're gonna go ahead and cross our knees and just roll ourselves onto all fours here, okay? So bringing yourselves onto all fours, wrists are underneath of our shoulders, fingertips are spread nice and wide, and we're pressing into our palms, right in between that meaty part between our pointer finger and our thumbs. So pressing in with that and our fingertips, and almost feel like there's a suction cup underneath of your hands. Looking back at our knees, they're directly underneath of our hips as well. So we're in that kind of straight position. And keeping our gaze in front of us, so about a foot in front of your hands on the mat, or if you're in your chair following this, just feel free to sit on the edge of your chair and sit up nice and tall. From here, we're going to come into cat and cow, which is rounding and arching our spines, which is so important just to keep ourselves mobile. So take a deep inhale here. On your exhale, we're gonna round ourselves. So bring your back around. So we're gonna tuck our tailbone down, bring our chin to our chest, press through our shoulders and our arms. And on our inhale, doing the exact opposite, go ahead and drop the belly down toward the ground. Tailbone comes up, gaze comes up. Exhale, go ahead and find your cat, rounding the spine. Inhale, arch the spine, finding your cow. One last time, let's go ahead and bring ourselves back into our cat rounding, tuck that tailbone. Inhale, drop the belly, gaze comes up, find your cow. Go ahead and bring yourself back to a neutral spine here, so a flat back. And then we're just gonna bring our big toes to touch behind us, and we're gonna bring our hips back toward our heels or to rest on our heels. Then slowly bring your forehead down to the mat here, and extend those arms long. You also have a few other options here. If the ground is a little bit too far away when you come into this pose and you don't feel comfortable bringing your forehead down, feel free to build yourself up so you can still come into the posture. So from here, you can go ahead and bend at the arms, bring them directly underneath of your forehead and just rest it on there and build some blocks off the ground basically, so rest. So feel free to do that. Or you can keep arms extended with forehead down, or if you'd like, you can bring your arms back by your sides and take it this way. But finding your child's pose here, closing the eyes, reconnecting with the breath if you feel like you've lost it, or again, if you feel like your mind has also wandered, come back to that saying or that mantra, whatever you were trying to keep your focus on today in regards to worry or stress. If your arms are as mine are right now behind you, go ahead and bring them straight out once again. And let's go ahead and slowly sit ourselves up onto our heels, okay? Now from here, we're gonna do what's called cow facing pose. So from a chair, this is a little bit more difficult. Feel free to just sit this one out and kind of walk through it with me mentally, and then keeping in mind any of those mantras that we were talking about. So feel free to come into the meditative side of it a little bit for this part. So for cow facing pose, it doesn't have to be anything too stressful, but it does help with the hips. So what we're gonna do is keep one leg long, bring the foot underneath the other one, and we're gonna simply bring our heel toward our pelvis, okay? And then the other leg, we're gonna bring it over top of that leg. So you can stay here, you're still gonna get the benefit of it, or if you want to, so, well, actually, let me just instruct it this way too. So right now, our left knee is on the ground almost. We're bending at that knee, bringing our left heel toward our pelvis or toward our side of our hip. And then I'm crossing that right leg over top of the other with my foot right by or right in front of that left knee. Make sense? Okay, so what we're gonna do is you can keep it here, or if you wanna go that step further, you can kind of use your hand to get into your ankle if you feel like you have it in your hips, and bring that top of your right foot onto the mat also by your hips, very similar to how the other side is. So we're stacking our knees on top of each other. So otherwise you can have, again, your foot right in front of you for your right foot, or you can fold it over like I just showed. So find your version of this. You'll feel it very deeply in your hips. So just keeping that in mind. We're gonna take a deep inhale, bring your arms high overhead. On your exhale, let's go ahead and bring our hands into heart center. We're gonna do this nice and slowly. So we can use your hands if you want to take them down to the mat and just make spider fingers out of your hands here and just a little bit of pressure. We're gonna fold forward just an inch or two. So go ahead and finding that little bit of a fold. Use those hands to your advantage so it doesn't force you to go too deeply into the posture and injure anything. So go ahead and find your edge with it and just go there and stay there, not pushing beyond it. And on your next inhale, bring yourself back up to seated. We're gonna switch our legs out. So just slowly bring yourself back out of the pose. So this time with our knees up in the air and legs bent here, we're gonna go ahead and bring our right foot underneath of the left leg with our heel right by our hip. From here, you can go ahead and just simply cross the right foot over and keep the sole, or excuse me, left foot over rather, and keep the sole of your foot on the ground right in front of you. Or you can tuck it back under and stack those knees on top of each other, just like we did on the opposite side. Again, finding some sort of like stability with the hands on this one. You can use those fingers as spider fingers. We're gonna go ahead and bring our arms up though first. So go ahead and bring your arms up, palms come to touch. Bring your hands down to heart center, which is the center of gratitude. So allowing ourselves to just be thankful in the middle of our practice here for what we're given and the abilities we have. And then let's go ahead and bring those fingertips down to the mat by our sides. Take an inhale, sitting tall. Exhale, fold yourself forward just a little bit. Again, enough that you can still keep that stability in the hands or fingers. Inhale, rise back up. Slowly unwind those feet. Extend your both legs long in front of you and just go ahead and bounce out the knees a little bit and give yourself a little break. Let me just go ahead and check on time for us here. All right, excellent. Perfect. So from here then, everyone, we're gonna go ahead and bring ourselves back onto all fours. So feel free to find your way there, however easy it may be. And then we're gonna come into downward facing dog for a moment here. So we're gonna press into those hands just like I had mentioned before. So pressing into those hands and really pressing into that meaty part in between your pointer finger and your thumb. From here, we're gonna go ahead and tuck our toes under. We're gonna lift up for just a moment here into our downward facing dog, just to find that comfortability into this pose. It really does work just about everything, so give it a try. Again, if it doesn't feel right for your body, feel free to sit it out if you're doing this from your mat. Otherwise, if you're seated on your chair, just simply stay there for me. Let's go ahead and lift the knees up for those on the mat here. Bring yourself into that V shape with your body. And we're gonna gear our heels down toward the mat and the gaze back toward our feet. We're gonna roll our armpits in toward one another here, so kind of rotating them in toward our ears. And then let's look up to our hands. We're just gonna take baby steps and come all the way up to the top of our mat. So as we're at the top of our mat or middle of our mat, wherever you made it to, take an inhale, halfway lift, find a flat back here. So we're almost making a tabletop out of our back of our body for the moment. And then let that next exhale, just drop your head heavy, drop your arms heavy. You can see I'm just kind of dangling. So from here, we're gonna go ahead and grab onto our elbow to hand here type of grasp. This is called ragdoll. So sincerely let your neck drop down, your top of your head drop down toward the ground as much as it's comfortable. Keep your gaze at your feet. Feel free to go ahead and take some rocks from left to right here. You'll feel that a little bit in your lower torso. And then from here, we're going to release those arms down and just bringing our chin to our chest and slowly rolling ourselves up to seated. Let's inhale and slowly bring ourselves all the way up to standing. Excellent, everyone. So from here, we're going to work on some standing balance postures, okay? So feel free to, if you're in a chair, you can stand up and use that chair as a prop. Anyone as well can use the wall as a prop. So finding whichever variation works best for you. Now from here, we're going to go into what's called tree pose. So I'll show you kind of on an angle here on our mat. I may twist around a little bit just for the sake of the video and be able to instruct it properly for you. So feel free to stay in the same direction this whole time. I'm just going to move around a little bit more just so you can see what I'm doing. So we're going to come into tree pose here first. So our right leg is our standing leg. So we're going to go ahead and just slowly put some weight into it. So feel free to just sway kind of toward the right. Put a little bit more weight in. Now we're going to unweight that left foot entirely. So go ahead and lift it up. And then we're just going to press ourselves kind of into it. So our toes are just kind of tapping for stability's purposes. Put a little bend in that right knee so we don't have to be completely straightened. Put a little tiny bend in. And then you can gladly use a wall if you'd like with your hand, or you can go ahead and stay off of that. You have a few options with your tree. What you can do is either this little kickstand here, which is basically your ankle or inner shin. You can bring that foot into your inner thigh, and we're going to kind of equally press into the foot with our thigh as we are our foot into our thigh. Or thigh into foot and foot into thigh rather. So coming into this posture, either in this direction, or you can also flip that foot over too. So that's also an option. But finding your version of your tree and trying not to bow into that right hip too much. Okay, as I lose my balance here too. So let's go ahead and find something in front of you that's not moving as your focal point, and that'll help keep your stability. We're going to bring our hands into heart center here with our palms together. If you feel daring, maybe closing your eyes for a second, you might want to hold on to a wall, but that'll give you that full picture of what we're doing in this pose and what it's really conquering. Now, let's go ahead and bring our hands to the wall if you need or not. We're going to slowly grab onto that left ankle with our left hand, and we're just going to slowly remove it from there and let your knee come even with the ground. Okay, and again, just for video's sake, I'm going to move around a little bit here. So staying in that mindset of being able to balance, we're going to come into what's called Warrior 3. So feel free to use a chair with your arms on it if you'd like. We're going to kick that left leg back toward the back of our mat. Bring your hands into heart center. You can see I'm kind of lifting with my chest the whole time as I do that, as I extend that left leg back. So we're kind of bringing it as close to parallel to the ground as you can, and keep your gaze forward. From here, we're going to come into a warrior pose. So what I want you to do here is just slowly stand yourself up, but keep that leg still back. We're just going to go ahead and tap those back toes down to the ground, okay? So tapping them down, go ahead and wiggle the front leg forward a little bit. We're going to bend into that front knee and bring that back foot that we landed parallel to the back of your mat. So coming into our warrior pose here, we're going to do what's called Warrior 2. So we're going to bend into that front knee, keep it right over top of our ankle so we don't want it to go past it. And we're going to go ahead and just bring our arms out and out, so into this T. Our hips are going to be kind of opening out to the left side here. And our gaze is out over our right middle finger here that's in front of us. And then from our warrior two, what we're going to do is just slowly come back out of it. So we're going to straighten that front leg and just spin both feet until they're facing the front of the room once again. Excellent. And then just go ahead and walk out those ankles for a second from standing and creating that stress on them. So from here, again, wall can be used on this side or not. Even if you did use it on one side and you don't want to in this case, that's fine as well. So let's go ahead and find either our kickstand into our inner thigh or turned over with that foot. So find your version and be able to stay there, okay? So find that version, find that focal point in front of you once again. Oof, my balance is not great this morning, I apologize. Yep, see? Even as much as you practice, your balance can be very temperamental. So finding that focal point here, I'm just going to grab a different version of this because my body absolutely does not want to do what I want it to do right now. There we go. So finding your tree here. And from where we're at in our tree pose, let's go ahead and slowly use your hand, release that foot, and then we're going to bring that knee even with the ground. From here, slowly bring that foot back down, just tap it onto the ground here for a moment. We're going to kick the right leg back, this time in our warrior three. So from here, we're going to slowly unweight that foot, standing onto our left foot entirely. Bring your hands into heart center here. Keep that stability, and then slowly kick off. We're gonna, again, I'm a little bit spatially challenged in this case, so I apologize for my leg being bent, but feel free to find your version of your warrior three here. So as we kick back, we're flexing our toes like we're standing on the wall behind us and keeping that lift in the chest as we look forward and find our balancing point. Let's go ahead and bring ourselves back into a little bit of standing. Land that back foot. So we're landing that back foot on our toes here. Bring our right foot parallel to the back of the mat. Bend into that left knee. Open your hips up toward the side wall, how you are now. And again, keeping that knee tracking over our ankle. Bring those arms out. Find your warrior two. Gaze is out toward that left middle finger. 2 more breaths. Inhale, straighten that front leg. Spin your toes to be parallel to the mat on the ends. We're going to find a forward fold here with our legs nice and wide. So take a deep inhale, stand tall. Keeping our hands on our hips, so find the letter L on both sides here with your pointer finger and thumbs, and just bring that pointer finger around right where your hip bones are, right where you'd feel that bend or that crease. So from here, going ahead and gearing our hip bones back a little bit, we're going to slowly bend, and you can see I'm keeping it straight back again like I was before. So keeping that straight back, and then slowly let your head come down. So similar to us doing that inversion at the beginning of class with our legs, we're now bringing the head beneath our heart once again. So it's a different type of inversion or circulation. Again, let the head hang heavy, arms can hang heavy. You can keep your hands right underneath of where your face is. You can go ahead and bring them back and walk your fingertips toward the back of the room. But just enjoying this version of an inversion here. Coming into a quick twist, we're going to bring our hands back underneath of our shoulders if they have moved. Plant the left hand or stay on the left fingertips. Inhale and go ahead and lift that right arm toward the sky. Look over toward the right or up toward that hand. Then bring the right fingertips down, swap it out, open up toward the left. Bring your gaze back down, bring the hand back down to meet the other. We're going to slowly roll ourselves back up to standing once again here. So chin comes to our chest, let that be the last thing to rise. Slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, go ahead and stand yourself all the way up and bring your head up. Excellent, everyone. So from here, we're going to come into our kind of meditative state of the practice here for the last few minutes. So if you're in a chair, feel free to, again, sit back onto the back of your chair, as throughout the practice, you should be kind of on the edge of your chair and sitting tall and not letting the chair do the work for you. So finding that sweet spot and kind of sitting back onto the back of your chair again, if that makes sense. Those of you who are on the mat with me, let's go ahead and slowly bring ourselves down to a seat. And then extend the legs long, or you have those other options just as we mentioned in the beginning of class. So regardless, laying ourselves down, either feet on the mat, soles of the feet together, knees wide, or extended outward. Go ahead and let the entire back of your body once again melt into your chair or into your mat. And if you're comfortable with doing so, I do encourage to bring one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly, and really connect that heartbeat with our breath. And we're going to slowly let go of that control in our breath as well. So we're no longer going to be making that Darth Vader or ocean sound, and just aim back toward your normal, neutral breath. Close the eyes, please. And from here, just simply relaxing back into our own bodies. So hopefully for these last 40 some minutes, you are able to find some peace, find some clarity, and really find that relaxation that is in us at all times, but we just may be too busy to notice. So for now, showing some gratitude to our bodies for being able to breathe, for constantly keeping our heartbeat going, for helping with our circulation, and being grateful as well for our breath, that we're able to focus on it and we're able to simply use our breath to our advantage and keep us in the present moment throughout class. So with the eyes closed, for these next few moments, still keeping that word or mantra, whatever you were using, in mind. And just letting that be the only thought that's crossing your mind at the moment. If any thoughts do come, and they will, just feel free to welcome them for a moment, acknowledge that they exist, and then just note to yourself that you do not have to pay attention to them. Just notice if that's not serving you at the moment. Just letting it almost take an exit off the highway here and come back to it later if it is important to you. So once again, I want to just reiterate on our quote for today. Again, they said, worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but never gets you anywhere. So really burning that into your mind to be able to use for later times, and when stress does come into our life, or when worry does enter our minds, just knowing that we have the option and the ability to change that in ourselves. From here, we're going to wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, point and flex your feet, round your wrists in circles. And then bringing arms back high overhead, pointing the toes, find a full body stretch here. Create the longest version again of you that you can create. Then do the exact opposite. Bring your knees into your chest. Bring your head up off the ground. Bring it toward your knees. Thank yourself for doing something good for you. and something good for everyone around you today. And releasing our right arm down by our shoulder here, let's go ahead and roll onto our right side using the arm as a pillow, finding the fetal position, the position of new life, of fresh starts. Press into your hands and bring yourself to a comfortable seat when you are ready, whatever that may look like. From here, we're going to end our class with the word that means the light in me sees and honors the light in you, which is namaste. But before we do so, if you don't mind going with me and just simply saying the next mantra out loud in your classroom, what we're going to say is, I will not worry. So go ahead and feel free to say that on a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I will not worry. Go ahead and bring your arms high overhead, swing them up above. Bring your palms to touch, seal in this great energy we've created and harnessed. Bring your hands down to your heart center. Again, the center of love and gratitude. Thank you all for allowing me to be in your space, be in your lives here today. Look forward to next week as well, teaching you. So please bow forward, thank yourselves, and say namaste. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, if you do have any questions about today's practice, feel free to relay them to Sarah. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.